Jennifer, welcome.
Thank
Welcome to
you.
Real Talk and Real Estate.
Glad to be here.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. So, before we go into the topic of the Birmingham market and talk about it in details, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I am 20, almost 23 years in real estate. May 10th will be my 23rd anniversary. Have been in the business in two different states. So I lived in Alaska for 20 years, and I was in real estate there from 2002 through 2014. I was agent selling real estate, just like
Yep.
every other real estate agent. Started at a local independent company when Keller Williams came to our town. Eventually, I joined Keller Williams in late 2007. Continued to sell real estate, grow, build my business. In 2011, I moved into the leadership side of the brokerage and
Nice.
became what we call in our system the team leader, which a lot of people don't know what that means. It
Yeah.
sounds like head cheerleader, and I don't do cartwheels. So
But you're
it's
the
I love
basically
it,
like a
Jen.
CEO role of running the brokerage.
Yep.
So moved into that in January of 11 and stayed there in that capacity. When I took the office, we had 189 agents. By the time I left in May of 2014 to move to Birmingham, Alabama, we had 317.
Wow.
Wow.
So came to Birmingham to be the team leader of a little brokerage called Keller Williams Vestavia,
Yep.
which had 44 agents, and pretty tough challenge. And so got to work there, built some great relationships with some good people. Today, gosh, it'll be 11 years in May. Today, we have 457 agents. It's the largest real estate office
Yeah.
by, its own office in the state of Alabama. And if we play our cards right, our intention, we came just a little short last year, is to close $1 billion in real estate sales as a single office in 2014 or in 2025. So a lot of year left to cover, so we'll
Yep.
see how that happens. But I figured put it out there as the goal. So today, in January, kind of shifted roles a little bit. So today, I am what's called an operating partner, which again, outside of KW, people don't know what that means. So I function as in an ownership capacity as the representative of the ownership group of each market center to the market center to help lead and develop the team leaders and the office team
Yep.
and our top agents inside the system. So I am the operating partner of Keller Williams, Hoover, Trustful, Alabaster, Homewood, Vestavia, Gardendale, and also including three business centers: KW Jasper, Pell City, Blount County, and a couple of mega agent standalone offices.
Yep.
Chris and Jordan Burnett, Steel City, Jessica Buckmaster Miller over in northern side of town or other side of town. And we just opened, it should be official here in a couple of days, Josh M. Key off Rocky Ridge
Yep.
Road, KW Vestavia.
That's crazy.
So that's my job.
That is amazing.
So let's talk a little bit about that. I wanted to go into we wanted to go into the trend of the market in
Yeah.
Birmingham and Alabama.
Yeah.
But you grew an office from 44 to over 400.
Yeah.
If you want to attribute that to like one thing, like the most important thing, what would that be?
Yeah, it's interesting because this topic, how sometimes I just from my faith base personally, I believe the Lord sort of puts conversations in your path that continue to come up, and you're like, there's a theme here. I'm supposed to be learning something, right? So this has come up a lot recently, and just conversationally, I think it's an insane stubbornness. I really believe this. I think it's an insane stubbornness and inability to not see something through to the finish line.
Wow.
There's a lot of other things like intrinsic motivators. I'm super competitive, super wired. I'm very committed to movement. I I move very fast. I get a lot done in a day. It's not, people go, are you ADD? No, it's not lack of focus.
Right.
It's just capacity. It's completely all related to my mother and father, their DNA. My brother's the same way. My sister's the same way. I'm the same way. But ultimately, if you had to say, like, your question was the one thing,
Yeah.
I would look back over 14 years as a team leader and tell you that 75% of that time, I put a lot of thought into this recently, 75% of that time was incredibly challenging, hard, tedious, boring, frustrating, grind, just getting okay with the boring.
Yep.
But the 25% it's insane. It's when you win, like the 75% is worth it. Most people just stop doing because they don't want to do 75% of hard.
Right.
And so like the 75% is what makes the 25% show up. And when you're in those moments and you're seeing the results of hard work, it's like, I mean, I was a college athlete, addicted to the win, addicted to beating. I was track and cross country. So you're beating the clock, and just, I cannot stand to lose.
Yep.
Love it.
At all in anything. And I feel like a lot of times I kind of mask that because it's, if I'm full born, what's inside, I might scare some people. But part of that achievement based mindset is just unbelievable stubbornness to just not quit and not needing credit.
Sitting here, just listening to you talk, and your drive and your energy and the tenacity and your passion for people to grow, and I love it. And
Thank
just in one word, I would say, it seemed like you're obsessed
Yeah, for sure.
with seeing people grow,
Yes.
which is awesome. Which is going to lead into our next question, okay?
Yeah.
So, is the Birmingham market cooling off, or is it stabilizing?
It's interesting because there's all kinds of points of view, right, around. And you don't really have a space inside Birmingham to go to for clear market level data. You hear a lot of national data. And Birmingham Business Journal does a good job of putting some information out there. But the question really, I think people answer it from an emotional perspective or a skewed perspective. I like to just look at the numbers, right? Let the numbers tell the story. They don't lie. They don't care about geopolitics and national this or that or conditions or factors. The numbers just tell what's happening. So I would say we are flat. I would say it's a level. Flat almost has a negative connotation. It's not bad. It's a very level market. Nationally, we dropped to about 4.1 million homes sold across the country last year. Kind of predict the same, and I think Birmingham, no change relative to Birmingham. I mean, if I just look, and I brought along some exact numbers just to validate what we're talking about. If I look at the multiple listing service, so it's great timing. We just finished Q1, right? We're sitting here. It's April 15th. It's tax day.
Yep.
It's tax day.
No.
I extend every year, so it's not tax day for me. But if I look at the multiple listing service year to date, and just look at two categories: closed volume, how much volume has closed, and how many units have closed. And by the way, we take our agents at Vestavia through this process once a month, every month.
I love it.
So units are down 5.7%. So some people could go, okay, that's a big number. So I'll give you the real numbers. Last year through Q1, 9,030 units. Now, mind you, that's each house has two sides. Gotcha. So really you're talking about like 4,500 sales, 4,515 sales. Year to date this year, down 5.7%, but that's 8,515 sides. Wow. So when you hear it like that, It's not a ton, right?
Exactly.
But here's the difference. Our closed volume is only down 0.7%.
So prices are going up still.
So prices are holding, right? And what's important to people in the market is that their value holds.
Right.
Exactly.
So we may have fewer units, but our prices are staying steady. Now, be advised, that is an across-the-board average. It's not even a median. That's an average across all of the greater Birmingham MLS. Are there different micro markets inside of Birmingham? For sure. Tons of them. Yes. But if you're just looking at the housing market as a whole, I call that basically flat. It's not dropping. It's not necessarily growing,
Right.
but it's not. I mean, it's holding steady, and the only thing that keeps us up is the fact that we still don't have the inventory we need. It's not a buyer's market. It's not a seller's market. It could be if you're in the right neighborhood, the right price point.
Exactly.
So you really need. It's why you need a real estate expert
Exactly.
advising you through a transaction. It's about everybody wants to be the expert. Everybody thinks they can do it because they watched, Sunset Sells or selling whatever show. There's so much more to this really intricate, complex market that you need somebody to say, hey, here's what happens next.
Exactly.
Here's what you can expect.
And the numbers don't lie.
Yeah.
That's the numbers. I can look and say our average sales price is up 5.32%.
Awesome.
I can tell you that days on market is up 8.9%. Days on market last year through Q1 was 67. This year through Q1, 73. Wow. It's only 6 days.
Right.
It's not a dramatic, nothing's dramatically swinging here.
Right.
Gotcha.
So when we hear these numbers as professionals, we look at them from a lens that we can take that number and apply it to something, right? But when people that are hearing, listen to you saying these numbers, what do you tell them about the market? Is it so when you're saying the market is flat, does that mean that the market is about, like, a lot of people are there thinking the market might bubble? Is it,
Yeah.
like, how would you address that fear? And is there any trend, I guess, in the past that you can compare this to that would help put stuff in
Unfortunately, no.
context? Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
the problem,
that's
right?
the interesting part of the market, right?
Yeah.
You can see commonalities, you can see similarities, but I just an example. We actually talked about this a little bit in our sales meeting today.
Awesome.
I lived through
Yeah.
06, 07, 08, 09, 10, and came out on the other side of it. That was a crash. And we were talking about the fact that in Birmingham at that point, 40+% of the inventory was what we call distressed property. It was either a bank-owned foreclosure, a short sale, some level of rescue
40%.
real estate. 40%.
Wow, that's a big number.
Today in Birmingham, it's less than 2%.
Yeah.
So this is not like that.
It's definitely not a
And it's not even the same factors, right? So I would say you can look for historic trends. There is a trend we know to be true. What goes up must come down. What goes down must come up. That's
It's always a
always
cycle.
it's always going to cycle, and it cycles. It shifts seasonality even. Like even within a great year.
Yeah.
Look, we all know it. We don't list property during spring break because all of Alabama is at the beach, the lake, or the mountains.
Gone.
Like Easter Sunday's coming up. You don't put a property on the market on Friday before
Right.
Easter.
Right. Nobody
People
got
are with
time
their
for that.
family. They're traveling. Yeah. Now, to be
Family
fair,
time.
if they show up, they're real. I mean,
That's the
I've
best
sold
buyer,
homes
yeah.
on Easter. If they're out looking, there is a legit reason.
Yep.
I sold a house on Christmas Eve at 5:00 on my way to church, and I remember thinking, I can't believe I'm showing this. And they were like, "Write it up, we're buying it." And I thought, well,
Let's
it's
go.
worth. And they were
That's
right. It's a
serious.
great property for them that they bought. So I can't say specifically like there's historic trends, but one of the things we're watching is listing inventory is not really increasing. So supply and demand exist in any market, in any business.
Yep.
And as long as we have limited supply, even with rates that have been higher than they used to be, even with all of those things, supply and demand works. Limited supply has kept our market strong because there is still demand. The thing I love about the market is this. I'm never going to wake up tomorrow, turn on MLS, and it says 0.
Never gonna happen.
Sure.
They're all gone. Nothing on the market.
Wow.
Real estate always will be bought and sold. People, I mean, there's the negative reasons, the 3 Ds, death, debt, divorce.
Yep.
Sad, but true. Then there's the fun reasons, just got married, just kids are off to college. Now we're going to downsize, first house, new baby, new job, better schools. There's all kinds of reasons, but people move
Yep.
and they always will move.
So speaking about moving, that kind of leads us into the next question, which is perfect timing. So, we got, also especially during COVID, we got a lot of people moving from New York and California
Sure.
into
Chicago,
Alabama, right? It's more affordable than than other states. So would you say now that only because we're comparing Birmingham to like Atlanta or big metropolitan cities that we see Birmingham as affordable, or is it actually an affordable city compared to what it offers?
Well, I think, first of all, it's funny you bring this up, Ralph, because I brought a piece
Yeah,
of data.
evidence.
I do. I have
Numbers.
evidence. That's right. I brought this interesting piece of data because we chatted about affordability. And I think before we say whether Birmingham is affordable, I think we should address affordability in the housing market in general.
Gotcha.
So if you ask, if you go do a walk around downtown and do one of the man on the street polls and you say, is housing more affordable or less affordable? What do you think the majority of people, just off the cuff,
Less affordable.
they
Less
would say less
affordable, for
affordable,
sure.
right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about what it really is.
Yeah.
So the trend line for what you want to see as a percentage of your household income allocated toward your housing. What's healthy, sustainable, the goal we're trying to get to is 27%.
Okay.
All right. So 27% of your household income is allocated towards your housing. 20% is extremely low. If you look specifically, so let's take a peek and say this. So today, the affordability factor is 32%. That's not terrible.
Right. It's pretty close to 27.
If you ask me, is housing still affordable? My answer will say absolutely. And caveat, we choose lifestyles as our culture that make it not affordable.
Sure.
I agree 100%.
So everybody's got a personal right to make their personal choices with regards to how they live. We are much more of an experiential driven society than we used to be. We want to create experiences. Those cost money.
Yep.
We are certainly a materialistic society. Again, no judgment, but we want our boats and we want our cars that have a payment of. I was just talking to a really good friend of mine 2 days ago. Bought his wife a G-Wagon.
Yeah.
Woo. Expensive.
He can afford it. $2,500 a month.
Ooh.
He said,
I'm gonna make
I
sure
asked
my
him.
wife doesn't
That's
see
I
it.
this.
said,
By my
yeah, keep
spine.
this off. I said, we're super close. Like, he's been one of my best friends for years. And I said, all right, how much does that set you back? He said $2,500 a month. And then he said, and we only live once. And if I lose it, I can make it again.
Sure.
Now, there's some beauty to that. At the same time, when people say, I can't afford a home, it's not that you can't afford it. It's that many times you've chosen not to afford it.
Sure.
Your home is sitting in your driveway.
Yep.
Or on the lake at a dock. And again, no judgment on those choices, but don't make it be that the housing market's not affordable.
Absolutely.
Because it's not the market's fault you bought a boat.
Yeah. And on that topic, I was reading a sales book, and this guy was saying, like, if you got a client that's telling you, I can't afford this, well, look into why he can't afford that. Is because you can tell the client, like, hey, you've overspent on your TV, on your car, on your child support, whatever it is, right? And then so you can overspend on this product too if you want. Like,
Well,
that's
I
the
mean,
sales.
again, it's and to be really clear, I'm not passing judgment
Absolutely.
on
No,
anyone's
understand.
personal choices
Absolutely.
because people value different experiences or things or whatever, and that's great. Just don't say it's because the market is this, right? Like, give the credit where the credit is due. Back in the day when everybody would buy, oh gosh, this is before both y'all's times, but pre-crash and possibly why crash, everybody bought on 80-20. You did nobody brought any money down. You got it, 20% was the down payment, and that's one loan, and 80% was the regular loan, and you had 2 mortgage payments, and people would do all these HELOCs and refinances, and they'd buy this, and then we would go to list their homes after the market has plummeted.
Yep.
And they would say, this house is just, I'm not getting anything out of it. And I would be like, okay, again, not to be your mom, but time out. You did get something out of it. You just ate your birthday cake before your birthday.
Right.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
But don't say your house didn't produce it. Because again, the Mercedes in the driveway, your house paid for. You just took it early is all you did. Choice made.
Yeah. Yeah. We're not criticizing
No, I'm not.
people's
Just
choices. It's just a matter of the fact. There's
just
so
don't
many
say that the
factors.
market is
Yeah.
terrible and I can't afford it.
Yes.
When it actually is affordable, your lifestyle has made it so you can't afford it.
Yep.
Yes.
And so I said 2 points. So to the second point answer is Birmingham is by far, and I've lived in another state, and I can tell you when the house that I purchased here would have cost me a minimum of double
Yeah.
in another state. I think our affordability factor is fantastic. Now, if you're a local or a longtime Birminghamian, I can never say that word, you may not feel that because you don't have perspective on other places. And that's, understandable. I'll never forget when my oldest daughter, when she was going to college, we went on a visit. She went to the Academy of Art University in San Francisco, and it's what they call an urban campus. It's all in, right in the heart of San Francisco. So we do our visit and we go to dinner, right at Union Square, and I pull out my KW app and I'm just looking to see prices. Like what my jaw, and Alaska was a very expensive housing market, for a lot of reasons. My jaw dropped. Like I'm thinking by the end of her fourth year, she was there 4.5 years. But in her fourth year, she was off campus in an apartment with 3 girls, roommates, so 4 of them in a 2-bedroom at $3,600 a month.
Oh my gosh. That is, but how does that compare?
That's totally normal.
Yeah.
There.
That's
Wow.
I mean, we're talking a 2-bedroom apartment.
36.
900 square feet.
Wow.
Insanity.
Yeah, and I would compliment that and say I'm working with a buyer now. He lived in Salt Lake City, and he said the same houses that we're looking at in the Birmingham market at around 450,000 is 1.2 million.
Hands down. Yeah.
In Salt
I have
Lake.
very dear friends in California. And I mean, granted, you got to look at the whole picture. There's insurance costs per states are different. Some California unable to get insurance. There's property tax differences. There's all kinds of differences, but really those are fairly nuanced. I would say Birmingham, to me, relative to the country, is a solidly affordable state.
Okay.
I love
City, I should say.
it. Love it.
Very nice.
With that being said, Jennifer, bidding wars. Got a story there. When I first got into the real estate market, which is very recent here,
Yep.
it was a chaotic time. It was
Yeah.
a time that everybody was saying that this never happened before. We never saw this
Right,
before
right.
on the bidding wars with the sellers. And so my first offer that I wrote for my client, it was 23 offers. Should sellers today kind of expect somewhat similar, or what? How does the bidding work? Should they expect it today or not?
Depends. Depends on where you are.
Pricing, huh?
Depends on where you are. Depends on where your house is, location. It depends on the price point. I'll give you an example. My team has a client. Client has been looking for 2 years. Has a very specific criteria. Needs to be within 5 minutes of one particular elementary school in Mountain Brook. Got daughters there, grandkids, all the things. Doesn't want to spend over $700,000. Needs one level. Doesn't want renovated. Now you can find it. You can absolutely find it.
But
You
not
got to be
that-
patient, but you can find it.
Yeah.
And I know that you can find it because we found 8
Wow.
and lost every one of them
Wow.
until the last one. And so that specific subset, it exists, but there's a lot of people looking for it because there's people who don't want to have stairs. They want to be close to their grandkids. They're moving in. They don't want to spend $1 million plus. And by the way, if they look renovated, it's going to be $1 million plus. So, great example. Then you can go into certain, if you list a townhome under $250 in a great area of town, gone, multiple offers, because it's so affordable.
100%.
Then you can have then you have the challenge of the homes that are sitting on the market. Remember, I just said average days on market is 70, 73?
73 days.
So clearly it totally is relative to the schools, the neighborhood, the price point, and the amenities. So do we see multiple offers every weekend, every day of the week? Yep. We just had there was a listing that just came out, $300,000 listing. I believe it was 52 showings and 27 offers. It was listed at 300. Probably will end up, I have no idea what it'll end up closing at, but my guess will be 375 to 410.
Was that in Leeds?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know it?
Yeah,
Yep.
I know it. I
Yeah,
called
we
the
wrote on it
agent.
too. Yeah,
I
yeah.
called
Everybody
the
called her.
agent and
She talked to a lot of people that
oh
day.
my God. She said, we have 40 showings today.
Wow.
Yeah, it
So
was
I called the
nuts.
buyers. I'm like, are you guys ready to pull the trigger? They're like, no.
Then
I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah. Then just back out.
Then it's not
Yeah.
worth it. Yeah.
Now, at the same time, we have homes that sit,
Yep.
but typically, that is the result of, and this is just normal, and it's no criticism. Sellers consistently cling to the highest historical value ever associated with their home. Buyers want to get it for the lowest possible price that they can ever get, right? And so if you miss the market when you list your house on price, you're going to sit 6 weeks minimum. Almost always.
Wow.
Maybe 4.
Yep.
Because the buyers are looking, they know what things are worth. I call it the pool of educated buyers. They're out there, they've rejected everything that it doesn't work. They know what homes are worth, what they're selling for, and they're waiting for that product to hit the market. And when it comes on, if it's priced right and condition is good, they're going to move on it. But because they're educated, if it comes on and it's not, we're not in such a listing crisis that they don't just go, you know what, I'll wait for the next one.
Sure.
So in COVID days, what you're talking about, it was everything was that way.
It was like
Every property.
crazy.
Every property. Today, it is subsets of the micro markets.
Yep.
Wow.
So it's kind of evened out some, not completely.
Yep. So this goes without saying, this is real talk in real estate. So sometimes we
Have we
do
not
go,
been real yet?
Been real.
I mean, we
Good.
can go realer
Yeah.
if you want to.
I love superlatives.
Exactly.
Love it.
So, yeah, I kind of want to, because I heard you talking about like the expectations of sellers and buyers, right? I kind of want to ask a question about that specifically, because sometimes you list a house on the market and it just sits, right? And sometimes you list a house on the market, you get 40 showings.
Surprise
and
yourself,
7,
even. Yes.
Yeah, 7 offers in the same day, right? What are the factors that influence
Great question.
that?
Yeah. A lot of them. So one of my early mentors years and years ago, a guy by the name of John Levy, learned so much from him in just a few short years. But he said something that has stuck with me. Real estate is an art, not a science. We certainly want to bring a strategic, statistically based, analytical view around pricing and presenting a property to market. And at the end of the day, it's anyone's guess. Now, that doesn't mean we do it carelessly.
Sure.
So what factors influence that happening? Number one, again, here's the thing that it's a really hard concept for sellers to wrap their head around. And I get it. I completely get it. Because if I wasn't in the business, I don't know that I would not feel the same way. They have to trust their agent, right? What are sellers' biggest fears? Leaving money on the table and their home not selling. Or selling for too much less.
Right.
What's a buyer's biggest fear? Overpaying and being taken advantage of. So you have these two conflicting forces, right? Here's what I can tell you. And again, I've got all the data sitting here. No one is going to steal a house out from under a seller. There are no deals, even in our leveled off market. No seller's going to get taken to the cleaners and it sell for less. So a lot of times what you will see is a seller, number one, it's about presentation. Condition has to be there. It absolutely has to be there. In COVID, to be truthful, 2021, 22, you could kind of stick a sign in the yard. And because there was no alternative competing property, people were like, I mean, it sucks, but yeah, I'll go 20K over.
Sure. Yeah.
And guarantee
Everybody
the
was
appraisal
desperate.
gap. I mean, because they didn't have choices, but they have choices now.
Yeah.
So condition really matters. Location, you can't change. here's how I'd like to describe it. We've had some stock market fluctuations in the last week or so,
Yeah,
right?
yes.
We'd all agree.
Yep.
So, real estate sales is a basic equation. Price plus condition plus location equals sale. W plus X plus Y equals Z. That's all it is. By the way, the seller's in control of all of those except for one thing. Can't change location.
Right.
You can change condition. You can choose price. If we miss it on any of those, you're not going to get what you want. You're not going to get the strong offer out of the gates. People go, we can just wait. Here's what they don't understand about just waiting. The offers get weaker and weaker as you go.
And questions get
More
and more
questions
questions.
about repairs. More, when it's immediate or within the first 2 weeks, you get someone who says, I don't want that buyer behind me to come scoop this. So I'm going to write a strong, clean offer.
Yep.
And we're going to, get through this thing.
Yep.
The longer you're on market, the less negotiating power you have as a seller. So it's to your advantage to price it correctly. And if you'll listen to your agent, and I mean, I'll just say this, you said be real, so I'll be real. If I could price it just a couple percent below what I think is fair market value, just a tiny bit, if it's worth it, it will organically run up. It'll do it every time.
That's good.
It'll organically show up. But if it's not worth it, you'll find out because it won't sell.
Yeah.
It won't sell. So
Right.
you didn't lose anything.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's the difference. Sellers have to have this understanding that perceived money is not real money. Just because I think it's worth this, I don't have that cash,
Right.
right? It's just like stocks.
I love it.
It's paper money.
Yeah.
At some point, it becomes real money.
Yep.
My mother's retired and living on, my father's passed away. She's living on the retirement account. It's real money for her. Mine's not real money
Right.
because
Yeah.
it's going to sit there for 20 more years, right? It's going to do what it's going to do. But this is the way I describe using stocks, the conversation between a seller and their agent. Imagine if I went to my stockbroker. What was the worst day last week? Friday? Week ago, Friday?
Friday.
And
yeah.
the bottom just fell out. And then,
2009 points.
So if I had called my stockbroker that day and said, I have Nike stock, I'd like for you to sell it. And I'd like for you to sell it. I don't even know what it was trading at, so I'm just going to make up numbers. I'd like for you to sell it at $200 a share. And let's say the ticker says it's worth, 75 a share. He said, Jennifer, I can't sell your house. I can't sell your stock for $200 a share. And I was like, no, you need to market it better.
It's impossible.
Yeah.
It
It's just
doesn't.
not gonna happen.
And if he, I said, why didn't you call more people about it? Why didn't you tell more people about it?
Right.
You should. Why didn't you hold an open house to sell my Nike stock?
Right.
Well, the reality is now here's the difference where the analogy fails. We've got a ticker that says this is what it's worth. We don't have a ticker
Yeah.
in
That's
real
what
estate.
makes it more.
Believable. That's why
Yeah,
people hear that
right.
analogy and they're like, well, that's dumb. It's worth what it's worth. Well, guess what? The real estate market is the same way. We just don't have a ticker we watch.
Right.
So expectations, that's why you hire a professional, because they can say, here's what's sold, here's what's happened, here's what's happening right now, here's what we think is going to happen. But I think sometimes sellers have this fear that I don't think, I know this for a fact because it's been told to me many times over 23 years. You just want to sell my house quick and make your money and get out. The piece that is never brought up in that conversation is that, quite frankly, my compensation is tied to the value that your home sells at.
Sure.
So don't you think I wanted to sell for the most it possibly can? Like, I'm in this
Makes
with you.
sense. Right.
Like, we're
don't
here
get paid
together.
until it sells.
I don't make a dime, and I would love for you to sell it for the highest price ever.
Right.
We all win together.
Yep.
So expectations, it's a conversation that has to be had.
Absolutely.
And it's the same on the buyer side. The good news is today, buyers can negotiate a little bit more. They can get some closing costs. They can get some things, but not in every deal,
Right.
right? And it's nice to have some more flexibility and to be able to create some wins for your buyers. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Every buyer's agent that sold a house during that crazy period,
Yes.
they felt some type of way. They did not enjoy that.
No, it was horrible.
It was not enjoyable
It wasn't.
to look at your buyer and say, I know this sucks, But yeah, you can't have an inspection before we
Waive
buy
the
this house.
inspection.
Yeah.
Like nobody wants
And
that.
you
We don't
have
feel
to
good
offer
about it.
$20,000
Even
more.
And
excavation
this and
was-
this and this and this and this, right? All the things. And at the same time, like they want to buy a house, and it's
Yep.
tough.
You know what I love about these conversations? Like
Mm-hmm.
we're talking about things that happen. It's not
Every day.
theory. It's things that
Every
we
day.
experience. You've experienced multiple times,
Yeah.
right? So we're
Yeah.
talking about things that actually happen,
Right.
that are gonna basically we're talking about this for the benefit of whoever's gonna be listening to this,
Yeah.
whether it's buyers, sellers, investors, real estate agents,
Mm-hmm.
brokers, whatever it is. It's just real life.
Well, the time to have conversations like this is when you're not engaged in a transaction. You know, it's why we say, Mr. Buyer, please come in and meet with me at the office for 45 minutes
Yeah.
because there's no one's gotten emotional yet.
Exactly.
And the minute we get emotional, and that does happen. I mean, a home purchase is not like buying a TV.
Sure, absolutely.
Right? I mean, that's going to last a few years and then you're going to get a new one. It is an emotional process. It should be an emotional process. And I'm talking about, I'm going to live their homes, not investment home. Investment's just math. It works or it doesn't. There's no emotion. But when I'm looking at that conversation, it's much easier to say to our client, let me lay out the things you need to be aware of when they're not tied to something yet, right?
Yep.
Because then it feels like they could feel like they're being manipulated. That's what people think. And I can understand how they feel that way. I mean, if I didn't know any better and someone said, well, you have to offer this to get the house, I'd be like, what? You're just trying to quick sell me.
Right.
You know, I'm a skeptic,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
you know, a bit cynical from
Yeah.
time to time. So I think that these conversations, this is the exact time to have the conversations when you're not at the table making decisions.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
And well, I mean, we dance that fine line pretty much every day of not sounding like we're pushing for that
Yeah.
deal to happen, but also giving the rational advice based on numbers,
Numbers,
market,
yeah.
market analysis, all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
it is a very fine line
Yeah.
of not sounding, let's say, too desperate, maybe
Yeah.
sometimes
Pushy.
pushy.
Yeah.
Yeah, push it, yeah.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you know that in order for this deal to go through, this is what you need is
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
And I just love when, some agents typically win selling season. And the market is hot.
Yeah,
And that kind of like strokes some emotions.
it does.
And it
It
pushes
does.
people to impulses
Yeah.
to do things they otherwise wouldn't have done. So we don't even have the conversation.
Right.
Because we rushing, chasing houses.
Yeah.
And with that being said, do you think that's a misleading narrative that a lot of
Well, here's what I'll
sellers-
tell you. I have taught this from the beginning. Now, again, you're right. We're coming out of a period where you didn't play the game. You couldn't play the game if you weren't willing to pull a trigger, right?
Gotcha.
But if I just step out of this moment in time for a minute and look over 23 years, the client that scares me the most is the one that makes a very quick decision. And I mean, like, hard, all the way in, emotional, very quick. Because, most agents, and the first time it ever happened to me, I fell into the trap. I was like, oh my gosh, I showed this guy this one house and it was perfect. I'm so happy I found it. And we wrote a full price offer. And I'm driving around in Alaska in the dead of winter in feet of snow, getting signatures at 10:30 at night because there was no e-signature with my babies asleep in the car. Because this guy's ready to go, dropping it off because you didn't email offers in my manila envelope,
Yeah.
dropping it at the brokerage's drop box at midnight, get the house,
Wow.
and here's what I learned. It's about behavior. The same behavior that will trigger the switch hot is the same behavior that will trigger it cold the next day. It's just behavior. It doesn't matter which direction it's swinging. Impulsive, fast behavior will continue to show up. So we're in love with the house. We're doing everything to get the house. We want to have the house. Nobody should take this house from us. And 2 days later, they're like, I'm out. This is a bad decision. And you can't make sense of it because it isn't sense.
Right.
It's just, it's behavior. So I always tell our agents, it's why I was always very hesitant to counsel our agents in COVID to accept an offer when a client hadn't seen it yet. because I would go, is that the impulsive side? Now, you know, there's a point in time where you have to, I'm a very fast decision maker. Very quick. Drives my husband absolutely bananas because he will take days to make a decision of whether we're buying Heinz ketchup or Publix store brand.
Just grab
And
one.
I'm like, we're buying a house today. Like, let's do it. I came home with a car one time. And he was like, what happened? I was like, I bought a car. He's like, but what? Did you think through this and this and this and this? I said, yeah, I thought through all of it. I just think through it fast.
Yeah.
That's all. It's just different.
Different speed.
But yeah, I think you have to really make sure that people are making thought out decisions. But at the same time, the market is quick, so they have to move quickly. They don't get time.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So it's a tough spot.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's a good point. And like with the market being as it is, would you say that it's more benefiting like the people that live here, or is it an investor's market by any means? Is it, you know what I mean? Like, is it more of like a buying and selling like families, or is it more of like investor?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, sort of.
Each?
All
each?
D, all of the above.
Yeah.
So I think, obviously it's a great residential. Birmingham's fantastic. People come here. If they've never been here, it's not what they thought it was. I've experienced that.
Yep.
As I've had friends that have come to visit, they're like, this is not what I pictured at all. They think just cotton fields and flat. They don't realize that now I'm from Alaska, so Birmingham people will say we have mountains. I will say we have lots of hills.
Hills, yeah.
But that's just perspective. But we do have lots of hills.
Yes,
And we do have some mountains.
we call them mountains.
We
though.
call them that.
So
Absolutely.
they become mountains.
That's right. So I think from a residential perspective, I think Birmingham has a huge attraction factor. So much green vegetation. The only thing Birmingham doesn't have that I don't like is street lights. Why we don't have street lights in this city, I really don't know. You drive through neighborhoods at night and it's pitch black dark,
Pitch
and I'm
black
like, just
dark.
2 street lights maybe? But whatever. That's Birmingham. I've learned to live with it. From an investor perspective, and I do work with a lot of investors, and this is a space that I play in my spare time. And I own investment properties. We own long-term rentals. So I've put my money where my mouth is on this. There's 3 different types of investors that we see in Birmingham. Number one is the institutional buyer, and that's the hedge fund buyers that are buying up neighborhoods, houses, paying top dollar for them for rental purposes. That's what really caused the housing crisis during COVID.
Okay.
The entire first-time home buyer market got bought up by BlackRock, institutional investors for rentals. So you eliminated an entire piece of the inventory. And once you eliminate that, remember that real estate is cyclical, right? You get in the market, you buy your first home, then you sell it and you buy your second home, and you go through this process. Well, if you take this part out, what happens now? You've broken the cycle.
Right.
And that's what happened. You were competing. You had regular
LSEs,
buyers.
yeah.
You had Leonard, 24 years old, just got married. He and, they're going to go buy their first house at
Exactly.
$175,000. In normal days in Birmingham, you could get that. Get a nice little house in a sweet little neighborhood and get started
Easy.
on your process. Well, then in 2020, really it started in 2018, 2017. People didn't notice it. The only reason I knew it was we had an agent that worked for Conrex, one of the biggest investor buyers.
Yeah.
And she was
bought up
doing, she's writing 30, 40 deals a day, right? They start buying. So I see it happening, and then it picks up speed. Why? Because money's basically free. So when you're borrowing money at 2%, they're spending it like crazy. They don't even need cash. They'll leverage everything. So that moved out this whole piece of the puzzle that is not back yet. Now, by the way, in the last couple of years, what we thought would happen has started to happen, not to the level of pace that I wish it would. They're cleaning their books. So they're top grading their portfolios and going, this is underperforming, and they'll kick them back on the market. So over time, but guess what? They're back. Now, they're not back like they were, but my team just sold a listing to Main Street Renewal, who we used to see offers from every time. $314,000 Chelsea Park house. It's going to be a rental.
Do they choose certain areas in Birmingham?
All
or it's
over.
more all over the place?
The metrics don't always make sense. And people go, why would they buy cash all in? They're playing a very long game on this, which is just acquire. And so they all backed off, and they haven't come back in full. Money's just not cheap yet. They're ramping up a little bit. I would expect, I would have told you I'd expect Q3, Q4 to see more. I think with the tariff situation and the uncertainty around the global economy and the bond market specifically, I think everybody's kind of sitting and waiting to see, because it's going to all straighten out. We're going to know where we are by the end of the year.
Yeah.
One way or the other, we're going to know. And that's not a political statement. I have my own opinions. Everybody has their own. But we'll know something this year.
Sure.
I will say this. Americans are not used to delayed gratification on answers.
Ooh.
We don't live in a culture of delay. And again, I'm not saying what's
now.
being done is right or wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not an economist. We'll see.
Yeah.
Yep.
But sometimes when you're talking about global economies, it doesn't happen on a dime. So we'll see. So there's those buyers. Then there's your local mom and pop buyers who want to buy one or two houses for a rental. Most people get their dreams shattered and crushed because this is what they come in with. They say, I want a four sides brick house in a good school zone, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths that I can buy and cash flow on.
Yep.
Well, unless they're buying cash, they can't cash flow on it.
Sure.
And that becomes something people are really surprised around. And then you have your lower income areas of housing, which we see a ton. I own several properties in that space. I couldn't buy the properties I have now for the price I bought them for 3-4 years ago. They've definitely done well.
Right.
So you can still get in there, but it's getting close to where if you're financing, if you're not cash, it's going to be tight to get
Doesn't make sense.
to get the cash flow to make, because you what you will always have in that space is constant deferred maintenance.
Yeah.
The money may work with just your basic cap rate things you're looking at, property management, taxes, insurance, PI.
Right.
You throw in deferred maintenance and figure $250-$300 a month, always going to be something you eat up your cash flow real quick. So
Yeah,
that's a long
something
answer to your question, more
that's
than you
something
wanted to
that
know.
They don't. Sometimes people don't think about.
Well, they go, I get a $75,000 house and it's renting at $900. Great.
And you want that 1%, It's
Yeah.
kinda,
And they go, look, this makes sense. $900, $750, 75,000. But when you throw in maintenance, and there's going to be,
Of course.
then, you can get upside down on the cash flow situation.
Exactly. So what the biggest myth buyers and sellers believe in Birmingham right now? The biggest.
I think I said it earlier. I think it's that buyers think that they can get things for 10% off the list price because the rates are higher, and sellers are going to have to negotiate. And I think sellers think they're going to get multiple offers no matter what they do when they go on the first weekend.
Yep.
And by the way, that's always the case. No matter what market we're in, one way or the other, each party believes the extreme because it's emotionally attached.
Very emotional.
Right.
One of the challenges, you said honesty and edgy.
Yep.
One of the biggest challenges we have is parental advice. When you're dealing with a client, you're oftentimes representing their extended family who all love and care for that person very deeply and genuinely and authentically, and totally respect and recognize that, want the very best for them, as I would my children or my niece or nephew or my aunt or uncle or cousin. And yet their good intentions hurt their family member because their advice is not current. It's not.
Sometimes it's based on personal
experience from
Experience.
1974.
Sure.
Yeah.
And
You
it
know,
does not apply to this.
my uncle had a real estate license in Texas in 1980, and he said, I need to offer 20% off the price. Well, I'm sure your uncle was an exceptional agent in Texas in 1970, and that's what it was then. Today, it's not.
Sure.
And that's just a deal rupture. They rupture deals all the time.
It's tough. All of a sudden, Dad's a home inspector. He knows electrical. And if he knows electrical, great. But, changing out a plate cover does not qualify one to be an electrical expert. We find the experts, we get them in there to give good advice. And you got to trust that advice.
Right.
I love it.
Awesome.
Love it.
Let's talk a little bit about numbers. I know you love numbers. I know you are honed
Just
in.
funny because I hate math, but I love numbers.
Wow.
Yeah, well, I mean, numbers tell a story. You look
That's
at
it.
numbers all day, right? And I used to be a finance guy, so what I did not like is the accounting side of finance. I don't want to know how that number got there. I want to know
Just
what
tell me
this
what it
number
is.
means.
Yes,
Right? Just
exactly.
give me the number
I get
and
that.
I'll analyze
Yeah,
it
yeah.
for you. It's fine. So with that being said, what would you say is like the? I know Birmingham is a bigger market, right? It has different cities. You
All
have
kinds of-
Homewood, Vestavia,
Sure.
Meadowbrook. I mean,
On and on and
it's a
on and
different
on and
array.
on. Yeah.
But how do you if someone is trying to figure out what is the median price home in Birmingham these days? Do you have that number? Kind of.
So I have average. I don't have median. I prefer median. Median's my favorite tool when it comes to measurement of something. Obviously, for any who are listening who don't know the difference, it's totally normal to not know the difference. Averages, you put everything together and you divide it by the number of entries.
Right.
Median, you toss the high, you toss the low, and then
more
you
weighted.
figure out the average because you're getting the outliers off the equation, right? It's really hard because, when I say the number, I'm just making sure I have it right. 319,662. That's the average sales price in Birmingham. That is not the average sales price in 35242. It is certainly not the average sales price in Mountain Brook. It's not the average sales price in downtown condo market. It's not the average sales price in Crestwood. These, and I teach agents this, so it's a hard question to answer. My answer to the question is get yourself a great real estate professional if you have to make these decisions, because when I use broad numbers, the reason I teach broad numbers to the agents inside the Keller Williams system in Birmingham, Alabama, is it is a model for them to use to go advise their buyers and sellers in that micro market. Take the same numbers that we've used to say Birmingham and now go to Meadowbrook
Yes.
or,
Trust
Trustful or Carrington Lakes. Get subdivision. Because subdivisions are not created equally.
Sure.
They have varying factors. So, again, you can have 15 different markets with inside a 10-mile radius. And some of them are not great. Some of them haven't held value. Some of them, there's a subdivision right now. It was hot forever. I talked about it 2 weeks ago in sales meeting.
Yes.
I won't say the name of the subdivision and give it any negative connotation. Great subdivision. Sold. And now there's a competing new construction subdivision. This was all new construction as it built out.
Yep.
And now in this specific subdivision, which has a good number of homes, there's 29 active listings on the market. Because buyers are choosing what?
New homes.
Similar price, brand new.
Yep.
Pick it the way you want it.
We talked about that.
Yeah.
So
last
there's
week.
so many factors that if I took the little city that subdivision is in, the numbers are going to be great. It's a great area. It's a great market. But if I whittle it down into the subdivision, it's a different conversation. So you have to have an agent that's willing to get granular and not just run a quick and dirty CMA. Go, oh, it looks like this,
Right.
No, not here. There's this, that, or the other that is functional obsolescence. It's happening to the area that doesn't necessarily can be seen.
Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense.
I love it. The buyers and sellers dynamic. So just hitting those micro markets, you should hit those in Trustville. So is Birmingham currently a buyers or sellers market? And what indicators indicators to support that? You kind of answered that question.
Yeah, well, I'll give you a more specific answer as well. So there is a metric for this, and the metric that we look at to say, is it a buyer's? And now, obviously, it's a bell curve, right? Like, it can be a strong seller's market or a crazy strong buyer's market, and then somewhere in between.
Yeah.
So the number that we typically like to use is months of inventory. We call it absorption rate. So the way you kind of look at it is you go this. Let's say tomorrow I was able to turn off the MLS and not accept one more new listing. Based on the rate of active listings and listings going under contract and listings closing, how many months would it take to deplete the inventory?
Yep.
So months of inventory, 5 to 6 months is considered a balanced market. Anything less than 5 months of inventory is skewing towards the seller's market. Anything over that is skewing towards the buyer's market. We have about 2.7 months of inventory across the city.
Wow.
That's not a lot.
Seller's
That's not
market.
a lot, yeah.
Now, it's not what it was, where it was like 12 days of inventory, and I'm exaggerating, but not by much.
Yeah.
But it is a seller's market with some opportunity for buyers to negotiate some things that they couldn't get before. Like maybe don't have to pay for the termite bond. Wouldn't that be lovely?
That would be great. That would be great.
Little
Concessions.
things. Yeah,
I like
for
it.
sure.
Me and Leo, we had this conversation, or like trying to forecast in the future.
Did you
which is
figure it
very,
out?
very hard.
Please tell me, because I haven't figured it out.
We did. We talked about it 5 minutes and we
Yeah.
figured it all out.
Good,
We'll,
good.
We'll be happy.
We'll get
to
on my
fill
calendar
everybody-
later. Yeah.
I don't know if our rate
these
is too
Wall Street
high
guys
for
over here.
everybody to like come in into this huge
love it.
insight. But we were talking about, like, hypothetically, interest rates go down next week by a
Okay.
point. What do you expect happens in the market?
A
Right?
whole lot of refinances, first of all.
Yep.
And I think that's, as a matter of fact, we had this conversation 2 weeks ago in sales meeting.
Sales meeting, yeah.
Because as we were watching, the bond market, and the 10-year Treasury note specifically, we were seeing a little bit of tick down, not much. And now, of course, that it's all changing and moving daily. Hypothetically, if the rates were to drop a point, I think number one, and I'm going to say this in jest with just a little bit of truth. As realtors, all of our lenders and title companies are going to be real busy and not taking our calls as fast. You got to remember the lending industry and the title insurance lost 50% of its revenue when the rates went. Because, they're not just doing sales. What else are they doing all the time? Refinances. So, that jumps back up. You're going to see a whole lot of people happy in the loan origination space and the title and closing attorney space. That being said, I think a lot of people love their homes and would love to stay in their homes and say, man, I bought this at 7. I can get to 6.1, 6, 5.9, done. I don't think we ever see rates below 5 again.
Okay.
Maybe they'll touch 4.75 here and there at some point in the future. You can't sustain money being free. And we all knew it. I mean, I've got a 2.75 on my house. Thank the Lord. I'm never touching it. I'm not even trying to
Stay
pay it off
still.
faster. Like, it's not. I pay a little bit more every month because it's my cheapest money I've got out. So refinances will jump, but I also think there will be people who say my buying power just got higher, so I'm going to sell this and go buy something else with a less mortgage rate. Here's the problem. Once that happens, prices will increase.
That's the point.
The rate
That's
goes
the point,
down, the
yeah.
prices go up.
Yep.
So everybody's waiting, and they're saying the reason I won't buy now is because the rates are high, and I'm going to pay more for the house. Well, guess what? When the rates are low, you're going to pay more for the house because the prices will go up.
Yep.
Exactly.
Potato, make your decision.
Yep.
Like just decide if you want to move.
Right. And I feel like we touch.
If
on
you
that-
don't, stay.
Yeah.
It's fine
Yeah.
too.
we touch on that point pretty much every time we talk during this podcast about interest rates and prices. Interest rates and prices.
They are completely they are touched and have to work together.
Yeah.
So one goes up, one goes down, one goes up, one goes. The only time you win is if you move to another market that has a different market dynamic. It's the only time you win on both sides.
Gotcha.
You're going to either pay rock bottom price, but have a high interest rate, or you're going to have a low interest rate and pay top dollar price. That's if you're, or sell your house for the highest you've ever been able to sell your house before, but because you can do that, you're going to buy at the highest you've ever bought. So the only winners, if people want to win on all sides, is you have to move to a different market, another state, another city.
Like you sold high here.
And then you bought low
and then
there.
you bought low
You're not going to do it in the same
You're not
market.
gonna do it in the same.
Or exactly. So that's the only time you win on both sides. You're not going to win on both sides. It's a level playing field.
That's a very good
So
point.
you choose your hard, right? You just choose your hard, and that usually is dictated by lifestyle and what you want to live. And again, no judgments around that. People can say we're going to tighten in and keep our housing payment low. Fantastic, do that.
Yep.
But there's no. Everybody wants to win on both sides, and it doesn't happen that way. Not in a market
Right.
like this. I will say this: no matter what it is, stop renting. And buy.
Yes, absolutely.
Like, I don't care what the rates are. My parents' first house was at 19% interest.
Wow.
I think the seller paid 9 points for them.
Wow.
I mean, that was what, but everybody did.
That was the
I mean,
culture,
everybody
That was-
did.
yeah.
It's all there was. You didn't
Yes.
have other choices. I've sold in 7%, 7.5%, 8%. I've sold in 2%, 2.5, 2.75, 3%. Please, unless there's a strategic reason to rent, and sometimes there are, and I get that. You're not going to be there long enough, whatever. Don't get yourself caught up and stuck. But for the love of all that is real estate holy, buy a house. Don't sit and throw your money away to rent, building someone else's equity.
Man.
When you could be building your own. I can't. My team personally, we've started hitting the resell on some of the homes we sold in 2020, which I'm not gonna lie, made us a little nervous because the market, was
Exactly.
So just sold one, a townhome we sold to our guy, and I remember when he bought it, we were like, oh, it's a lot of money. He had to win it, multiple offers, had to go over all the things. He's walking away. Selling it, I think it was 2021, late 2021. He's walking away selling it. He's now married. He has a baby. They bought another house. He's going to walk away with $90,000,
Wow.
Awesome.
And
80 to 90,
short
Yeah.
period of time. 4
buying at the
years.
top of the market
Wow.
Versus renting.
versus renting.
Yep.
I love it.
He could have rented for 3
Yeah.
years.
Sure.
You don't want to pay the prices during COVID, even though interest rates were down, but you still had to put an offer $20,000-$30,000 over.
He
asking
bought this house
sometimes,
for
right?
$190,000.
Wow.
Yeah,
He sold it for $272.
Wow.
that's pretty good.
4 years later.
A townhome.
Wow.
Yeah. It's awesome.
Now we'll see if the appraisal comes in. we have a couple concerns, but not much. Not much.
So what's your take on the appraisal gaps? I know that was a big thing back.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
time
We're still
frame,
seeing.
too.
Well, on that one we have one. It was multiple offers, and the offer was very strong. It was well over list price, and we said we know that this pushes. We know the comps, and this price pushes. So we tell ourselves this is not a real number. It's not real till the appraisal says it's real.
Exactly.
But one of the buyers put in a strong appraisal gap. So even if it comes up short, sellers are very comfortable with where it will land. And
Yeah.
it gives them a little bit of certainty.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Gotcha. With
They're
that-
not used like they were, but they still are being used.
So with that being said, Jennifer, there's a lot of neighborhoods in Birmingham currently now in those macro areas that's exploding. Which neighborhoods in Birmingham are experiencing the most significant growth? Or
Oh,
decline
that's
in
hard
home
to say.
values?
That's hard to say. Birmingham is every market, and I mean the beauty of my role is I've gotten to get opportunities to meet leaders in the real estate industry across the country, and just ask them lots of questions like, tell me about Chicago, tell me about this, tell me about that. I don't think this is skewed to say this, Birmingham is more driven by school district than any other market that I have studied and witnessed.
1,000%.
School district is highly important for sure in every market. And I don't know, maybe my perspective is skewed because it's what I do every day, but based on my conversations with people, I feel like it's a much more heightened thing here. So it's hard to say. It's really hard to say the answer to that. I obviously there's betting on gentrification, and we watched Norwood go through just a huge push. There's a lot of work being done, particularly by Reverend Alton Hardy, pastor of Urban Hope Fellowship, Urban Hope Presbyterian Church in Fairfield. He's brought in, he's trying to really revitalize that area with commerce and business.
Yes, he is.
He's brought in, they built out a new grocery store. They just had a new pharmacy open their doors. So I personally have been watching that. Alton's a very dear friend of our family.
Wow.
Love him, love his mission.
Very passionate.
Understanding that change is holistic. It starts in the heart, but you have to address physical needs as well. And I think what he's doing is phenomenal. So Fairfield's a strong, lower price market in general. I own a couple of houses in Fairfield. I'd love to pick up more because I love Fairfield. I think if what he's doing on literally a one-man scale, if it takes root even further, I think you're going to see space like that really grow. Businesses drive housing.
Sure.
Maybe similar to what has happened, in Norwood. I think other than that, it's hard to say because you got to get the schools up to where people will invest and buy.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, my
Great
wife's lived here a lot longer than I had. Moved here in 2010, but she would.
Someone
tell
married
me,
you?
Someone
They
did.
agreed.
I mean, biggest mistake of her life, but
She's hung in there though, hasn't she?
she has every year. She says maybe it'll get better, maybe it'll get better, and it still hasn't. I mean, that's what I love about her. She holds on to that hope, and
says stubbornness.
She's very stubborn when it comes to that.
Change are coming.
She got it. She got it for sure.
Sorry, I threw you.
No, you're good. That's awesome. So she said like all that area where Chelsea is down to 80 was like nothing.
Oh yeah.
So once you start like these little communities start popping up, and then it drives like the stores,
the business,
Walmart
the
and
commerce,
business, and that's when you see all that area explode.
You'll see. I should say that's a good point. Moody and Leeds have long been, for the last couple of years, have been on the maps of developers. There's still land. It's still reasonable to develop. And again, business continues. I personally, one of the exciting things for me about getting involved in the Gardendale office for Keller Williams and the Jasper office is going north. I mean, going north towards Huntsville, I mean, it's wide open.
Yep.
And there's so much happening, and they're building that bridge that's going to make connectivity a lot easier, that's coming through. And you just have tons of land. I mean, I would not be surprised in the next 10 to 15 years if Huntsville meets Birmingham.
Wow.
At some point, to a degree.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, it's
moving.
Coleman is growing like crazy.
Right.
It's Coleman. Like it's a small little sweet town. And hopefully it'll be able to keep its identity. But you go to Smith Lake, I mean, the money going into Smith Lake is nuts. And it's all Huntsville buyers and Nashville.
Yeah.
Nashville and Huntsville are coming to buy on the lake because it's close.
Yep.
You don't even have to spend the night if you don't want to.
It's amazing.
Yeah,
So there's a lot of spaces. It's pretty exciting.
That makes sense. So we're talking about like investment and all of that. So we're staying in the same lane. What would you tell the buyers that are looking to buy like new construction? What are the cons and cons and pros?
There's again, keeping with my theme, there's a two-part answer here. There are a lot of buyers who have a misunderstanding around what it means to build a new house. Again, get with a real estate professional. Yeah. I want to go buy land and build a house, and I want it to cost me this much. The cost of building is doing nothing but going up. So number one, you've got to get a realistic understanding of what you think of is a $250,000 house we're going to put on our acre of land
Sure.
that we think we're going to buy for $10,000 is not realistic. Not only that, there's not a lot of one-off builders. And people don't understand the building industry. It's all about economy of scale, right? So it's rare to see builders want to pick up like non-fill lots, just a one-off here and there. Now, I mean, it happens for sure.
Yep.
But for the most part, most of the builders who have crews, who have subs who are running, they want to work in a subdivision or on a street. And why? Because it's time. The subs don't have to drive across town to get here, to get there. They just do it all there, right? It's just economy of scale. And so the idea of like buying a piece of property and building my own little house and it's going to cost me a total of $300,000 when I'm said and done is absolutely unrealistic. Yeah. Number two, the financing around buying land. People think they can get a mortgage around it. There's no mortgage for land. You have to either have a line of credit or you've opened up a construction loan and that's your first draw. So the financing is or you buy it cash. Or the builder or you buy it and deed it to the builder, or the builder buys it and it's part of there's so many different ways that people walk into that space really not understanding what's going to happen. So
where should they start?
They should start with an agent. They should start and say, what is it that you want?
Yeah.
And none of us want to come in with the super soaker and shoot down your hopes and dreams, right? But we also, there's a question that I ask clients constantly. On a scale of 1 to 10, how honest do you want me to be with you?
That's a good question.
I mean, what's the answer, right? Usually the answer is 10, but not brutal. Okay. We don't have to be brutal. Right. Be kind.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to be lied to. Nobody wants to be told a thing. Nobody wants to be sold a dream that's not realistic.
Exactly.
So there's times where it can feel like we walk in and we're like Debbie Downer. And again, that's a balancing act because nobody wants to be negative. We just want to say, well, how can we get you there? And it may be the path you've discovered in your mind, and it may be some of that and some of this, and it may be this. I don't know. Let's just make sure you have our job as a realtor. We don't make decisions. It's not my house. It's not my mortgage. It's not my money. It's not my marriage. It's not my family.
Right.
Like I do not ever suppose to be the person in the space to make those decisions. But what my job is to give that person all possible information that they can have in front of them to make their own informed decision. That's what my job is. Exactly. And sometimes that news may not be what you want to hear.
Exactly.
Yep.
But do you want me to lie to you or you want me to tell you the truth? And it's a table setting question. So that's one thing that happens. The second thing that happens is you say, look, let's find a reputable builder in a reputable space. For the love, please get an agent again, because the builders, and by the way, the big builders that do a great job and the builders with great reputations, they want you to have an agent. Their agents will say, do you have someone? Let me put them on this contract. And the reason why is, who's looking out for you?
Yeah.
And no knock. We have some unbelievable agents that work for builders that I respect greatly, most of them. At the same time, as good as they are, who's paying their bills?
Exactly.
The client.
The builder.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, they're going to be advocating for the best interest of the builder, as they should.
That's the job.
Using the builder's agent is like using your husband's divorce attorney. Like,
they're not going to work for
and
you.
I know because I've been through it.
Go get your own agent. Yeah,
So, and they are more than happy. And you have somebody who's been a second set of eyes. They've done this before. They know what to watch for. They know where you can push and where you can't. And so either way, whichever path, get with a real estate professional to advocate for you and to educate you. That's my best advice.
I love it. That's good stuff.
That's
By the way,
one.
every home I've owned has
Step
been
one.
new construction.
Yep.
I love new construction.
Do you get a real estate agent when you buy a house?
No.
Okay.
I will say, you didn't ask me if I got a real estate agent when I sell a house.
Should
When
I?
I've sold my house, I've absolutely gotten a real estate agent.
Really?
I'm too emotionally connected. I cannot make those decisions.
Okay.
I price it every time I've sold a house. I've priced it, and then I've gone to one or two people I respect greatly in the business and said, I have my number, not going to tell you what it is. Come look at my house, tell me what it's worth.
Wow.
Because I got to gut check myself.
Gotcha.
I'm a seller.
Check you out.
It's hard
yeah.
to take the hats
Yeah.
off, right?
That's
Absolutely,
true.
sure.
That's true.
So now I have listed it myself, but the first house I sold, I'd listed it myself. I had a team member. We got through. I got an offer. We got through it. We agreed. We got 2 inspections, and I called my team member and I said, "Please take it from here forward." I just didn't feel like it was gonna be really hard emotionally for me to negotiate repairs on the house I brought my baby home to. You know, like I was emotional.
Yeah.
I just needed a buffer, and I knew it.
Well, that's a
So I
strong
paid him.
message. Even
That's a strong message.
I mean, and I paid him.
23 years experience in real
I mean,
estate, and you
just-
still want to remove yourself.
I would
from,
do
like,
it
being the
tomorrow.
emotional
If I was
part.
selling my house tomorrow, I'd hire an agent. for sure.
You got 2 right here. so-
Okay. I have a couple I got to sit across Thanksgiving and Easter with.
That won't go so nice, would it?
Exactly. So one of my sons is about to reactivate his license. But
Oh, wow.
regardless, you get it, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah,
I understand that emotions make a difference.
It
Yeah.
changes everything.
It does.
Yeah,
The
I
whole
sold a
dynamic.
house a couple of times, and it's so you get so emotionally attached to the number. And like you want to know that number. What's that number? You know. So you have said a lot of things, Jennifer.
That's his way of saying you talk so much.
Leo
I told you, give me a microphone. Let me
I've said a
go.
lot of things, and it's just like I'm just dialing in my brain, just putting everything on the notepad, right?
Yeah.
And so, as far as the future outlook, what are the projections for Birmingham's real estate market over the next 12 months? And what are you?
Who's to know?
It's just
I promise you.
With the
Like,
tariffs
I don't
and all
even.
this.
I don't think you can. I don't. And people who try, I get it. Like they're trying to shoot their shot, and I'm glad that someone is willing to. I have made predictions. I said interest rates would get to 7. I got laughed out of my sales meeting room. They went to 7. I said, y'all, they're going to touch it. They may not stay there, but they're going to touch it, and that's what happened. I'm very confident reading the tea leaves because I do study the data, and I will tell you, I will not even speculate to make a prediction around the next 12. Here's what I know is not going to happen. This I can tell you: the bottom is not falling out.
Yeah.
We just exist in a tight supply and demand space with healthy interest rates, even though they're high relative to what people have experienced in the last few years. The bottom's not falling out. We don't have foreclosures. I mean, there's always a foreclosure, but if less than 2% of your business,
It's
Yeah.
not a.
it's not a factor.
Yeah.
Like, we're fine, and we're going to be fine.
Exactly.
And again, MLS is never going to say 0.
Exactly.
So I think we'll know a lot more at the end of the year, maybe sooner.
Yep.
You know, I mean, things seem to be happening in our world today.
Rapidly.
It's just so fast.
Yeah.
Like we talked about the stock market. Wednesday, last week, I got to my office in Vestavia and, had the news on. And I mean, the sky's falling.
Yeah.
Everything's happening.
Everything's
And I'm
going
like, okay. So I get in, I go into work. I leave the office at 12:30 to drive 15 minutes to KW Hoover, just down 459. The market broke 40,000 while I was in the car. In the morning, the sky was falling. 4 hours later, it broke 40.
Amazing.
And I'm listening to it,
One
and I'm
word.
like, so I turn off my car, I walk in the Hoover office, and I'm like, who's to know what I'm going to walk out to in 3 hours? I don't know. We'll find out.
Right.
So, I mean, the only constant we have right now is that everything is moving fast and furious. And it is a lot of things that people have never tried before or they haven't done, and love it or hate it, have your own opinions. We may know very soon,
Right.
just based on the speed.
How things are
And
gonna
it
go.
may be the end of the year. I don't know.
Yeah, you would still play scenarios sometimes with clients, though, right?
Yeah.
Like, what ifs? This happens. What if? Like, if this happens, then this. If this
I
happens,
won't
then
play
that.
it much on the large economic scale,
On more
but I will
specific.
play it. Like I have a script. I've said to clients for years, my job is to live in the world of worst case scenarios, so you don't have to.
Yeah.
So my job is to always be thinking, what can happen in a transaction? What about this? What about that? What if this happens? What if this happens? What's a backup plan? What's a strategic way to come at this? What I would tell somebody today is that the rates are solid. The economy is fine. Inflation's still kind of sitting. I don't know what it can look like, but I know whatever it looks like a week from now, it won't look like that 2 weeks from now. And it may not look like that again a week from now. Like, get in your house. It's an investment.
Yeah.
And by the way, real estate is not an investment for a short term.
It's long.
Right.
You know, there's specific times, flipping and specific scenarios. I don't know why I couldn't say that. Just really struggled to get those two words out of my mouth. But over time, real estate has proven to appreciate at a steady 4 to 5% for as long as we've tracked the data.
Wow.
Now, I can't make your house make money in a year. I can't guarantee that. I can't guarantee I can make it make money in a year and a half. I can't promise that instantly. What I can tell you is it's a long game.
Yep.
And most people who sell at the top of the market or buy at the bottom of the market do it because they got lucky. They
Yeah,
didn't
there's
plan
no
it. You
way.
can't time the market.
Right.
There's no way to hit it because you don't know. So buy a house. It's a great investment. You get your tax benefit. You get a place that you're building equity. It's a built-in savings account. And no matter what, you have to pay to have a roof over your head.
That's it.
Wherever you are.
Yeah.
Maslow's hierarchy of needs, food, shelter, clothing. Like, it's a basic human necessity.
Absolutely.
You have to have a home.
That's it.
You're going to pay yourself or you're going to pay somebody else.
Exactly.
Choose your poison.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, you date the rate and you marry the home.
Yep. Yep.
Rates always change. So
I
Jennifer,
bought my house at 5.
Yeah.
I refinanced it to 2.75.
Brilliant.
I mean,
Wow.
yeah, well, I was like the last
Easy.
one to it. I kept putting it off. It like, you know, it's like the shoemaker's kids. I'm
Yes.
in real estate and I run around with no shoes, you know, because you don't take care of yourself. You take care of everybody else.
Everybody else.
I was like, I better get this done. And thank goodness I did.
That's good. And cut. We need to wrap it up. I think time. What time?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I have no idea. I was
We
gonna
push it close.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's almost 5.
Yeah,
so
we're
go ahead.
good.
My
Yeah,
last
we're
question.
perfect.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So Jennifer, you've said a lot. So
You keep saying that. Now I got it from both sources.
I love it.
It must be true.
so, you know, the last thing that we want to touch base on when it comes to your experience and what you've done in the last 23 years, you said, right? It's just incredible. So,
Thank you.
You know, you manage an office. You're in there every single day. You're talking to realtors. You're strategizing. You're looking at numbers. All of these things. It just you said 75% of it is the grind, right? You get to enjoy the 25%. So with all of this said, what would you give like an advice? The one advice that you would give to a realtor.
See how you put parameters on me?
One advice.
He said no
3.
2-part, no 3-part.
Maybe 2. I mean, I'll give
I
you.
see what he did.
We should have asked all these questions. No,
I love it.
the one advice, maybe 2, because you know we're 2 podcasters that you would give an agent with all your experience that you have. What would it be?
Specific type of agent or just an agent in general? Like
general.
new? Yeah. Okay.
In general.
Very easy question to answer. This business is not hard. It's simple. It's simple, but most people lack the discipline to do the hard, to do the simple over and over and over and over and over. So the one piece of advice is there's only one thing in the real estate business that an agent owns, and that's their database.
Yeah.
That's it.
Wow.
Everything else, and you don't even own that. And you don't. Nobody owns
Anything.
the
right?
relationships.
Right.
So my piece of advice, if I have to say one thing to anybody, it's absolutely if all else didn't work and you didn't want to try anything, Build relationships with people and add value to their life. They will take care of you. My database took care of me when I did not take care of it. In other words, I didn't know any better. It was ignorance,
Yeah.
to be fair, which is, I'm the first one to tell you.
Yeah. You gotta learn
Grace of
something.
God here. Just grace of God. I have no false sense of being special or
No,
anything.
you're not the only one. Go ahead.
I am right there with everybody. But we use technology, we use the tools we have today to make us more human more often. And the more that we're in relationship with people, the more that we're adding value to people. For example, the refinance question, right? There's a great example. Let's say a week from now, the rates drop to a point. You'll hear me stand up and say it because I did it before when it happened in March of 2020 and they dropped to like 3.25. It was insane. I will stand in that room and tell every agent that will listen to my voice, get on the phone right now and call your people and tell them they need to check the rate and see if they need to refi. You can
Yep.
save them hundreds of dollars a month.
Yep.
That has nothing to do with us making
Easy.
money.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with that. That is not driving business. That is purely adding value to our clients.
Right.
So build a database, stay in touch with it consistently. Don't just stay in touch. Stay in touch in a way that you're checking on them, you're caring for them, whether they've sent you business or not. One of my greatest referral sources in my entire career was a family, husband and wife, who never bought a house from me, ever.
Wow.
They inherited a family home that they were never going to sell. It was their turn to live in it, just sort of a genealogical tree passed down.
Yeah.
But they would refer clients to me all the time, 4 or 5 deals a year.
Because you added value.
We just had a great relationship. And it was a two-way street. I loved them, they loved me. They loved my kids, I loved their kids. We did a lot together. Here's the thing, they knew I had no agenda because I knew I would never sell their house. Like there's no way.
love.
Right.
So I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm not looking to you for anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, care for your people and stay in touch with them.
That's awesome.
That's love. I love that. That's awesome.
Really, really good advice.
sure.
I do have one more question though. Is that okay?
Yo, go ahead, man. Live life.
How
Do you?
do you? Because you have all this experience, how would you rate Leo and I in this?
Oh,
podcast
really?
venture?
That's the question you're going to ask me.
Let's talk about us
Generally
now.
put you on the spot.
Well, you asked earlier if I was paying for this, and so I'm wondering if this is a set. No,
I love it. I love it.
No, I think actually I'm going to give you 10 out of 10, and that's legit, because you're very prepared.
Yeah.
You had a list of questions, gave them to me. I had an opportunity to be prepared. I mean, like I walk into sales meeting with nothing in my hands. Like I'm very comfortable on the fly, and except for when we get to numbers, I know them in my head. I just want to make sure. I don't want to ever be accused of misstating a number. So give me a chance to be prepared, to have some data for you, and super comfortable. I mean, I love you guys anyway. Like
Same.
This is the first time we met. I don't know, but like I really enjoy both of your approaches to the business. You're both very coachable. You're incredibly consistent in showing up,
Yes.
coming to the training, and engaging. It's one thing to sit in a room. It's another thing to engage in the room. So I think this is an extension of the character and behavior I've seen thus far. I think it's great. I think it's going to be a lot of fun
Awesome.
to
That's
see it
awesome.
grow.
good.
That's amazing.
And maybe one day you'll have me back.
And Jennifer, you're just a great cultivator. I mean, you cultivate and you create an atmosphere just so contagious. I mean, that I can't believe that. We'll talk about that offset, but it was awesome.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
And thank you for the sponsorship for the podcast. I do want to plug that in at the end.
He's lying.
Not true.
I enjoyed it. Thanks for having
This
me.
was a
Truly enjoyed
lot of fun.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
will definitely have you back. Thank you for your time.
Absolutely.
Thank
you
you
got
so
it.
much.
Thank you.
Yeah, pleasure.